show you how I do my peacock feathers. Take one, decide where it's going to go. So roughly about there, that's going to be my back. I find something that will allow me to poke a little hole in the hat because it's kind of netting, so I can just push through. Tiny hole, I don't want to rip it. I've done that before and I don't want to rip it. I want to know how far I can push my peacock feather through before it looks strange or not upright anymore. I actually have another little bit of a hole there. You'll have to be patient and really persevere with things like this, especially if you want to keep your material nice. You want to keep the netting good, you don't want to cover up any flaws in it. You just have to be really patient, really prepared to take your time doing this. Okay, so that's where that one's going to go. How far looks good? How far in looks good? Make it standing up. Make it look nice standing up. Not that far, I reckon. Not that far looks good. And I can see already I'm going to have a little bit of a problem trying to, when I come to sew it underneath, trying to make sure that it's facing around the right way. So I'll just take a bit of a note of that. That's going to be hard to do. Because of that, I think I'm going to tape it underneath before I sew it so that I've got it in the right position. So I've not broken the thread, I've just pushed little gaps into it with a needle. You can do it with whatever's easiest for you. I've picked 3 peacock feathers about the same colours and about the same size because I want it to look like this, and I just think 3 really works with something like this. Odd numbers looks really good. If you're a big fan of symmetry, then maybe that's one way of putting it in, but I like it because it's not in 2s or 4s. It's 3 really looks good. It looks right. Okay, so I've got them exactly where I want them, and I'm going to go and get some black tape so that I can tape them underneath before I sew them in. I've got my peacock feathers more or less where I want them to be. Peacock feathers are complete buggers for moving around, and what I've done is I've duct taped it with some of my favourite duct tape to the back of the net skull cap. It won't pull anything off from that, so that's good. Now you could either sew over it if you were just doing it for yourself, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew here and then remove the duct tape then and cut away these little pieces. I've done it before where I've glued feathers on and it really doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as good as sewing them on. Sewing them on is hard, it's time consuming and it's a bugger, but there isn't any other way really of doing it apart from that looks as neat as that, as sewing them on. Okay, so I've got my peacock feathers more or less where I want them to be. Peacock feathers are complete buggers for moving around, and what I've done is I've duct taped it with some of my favourite duct tape to the back of the net skull cap. It won't pull anything off from that, so that's good. Now you could either sew over it if you were just doing it for yourself, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew here and then remove the duct tape then and cut away these little pieces. Okay, now I've done it before where I've glued feathers on and it really doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as good as sewing them on. Sewing them on is hard, it's time consuming and it's a bugger, but there isn't any other way really of doing it apart from that looks as neat as that, as sewing them on. Okay, so I'll go through them one at a time to make sure I've attached them quite firmly. Guaranteed they'll turn round for me again anyway, so that'll annoy me. But that's just got to be patient. Just got to be patient. I've swapped to a slightly thicker needle as well, because going through this bit of the netting is harder. So we've kind of got them in place now. I've got them where I want them. I'm going to try to pierce the feather a bit there, just so that they can go in easier. It's not easy to do. done it. There we go. If I do that, then my feather stays in place much better. It's awful to do. Not nice. Thicker feathers, ostrich feathers, are even harder to do, but worth it. I'll do it with the second one. And then the last one in the line then. As patient as you can be, the more times you can manage to sew it, the better. It's fiddly and it hurts a bit because it's not very soft material either, but you will be really glad that you've done it afterwards. There you go, I've just pierced through that feather again so that it's made sure I've kept it in place. I've already also done that, threading it through the beading thing that I warned you not to do. I'm pulling it through the spine of the feather as well, so it's harder to do. Right, and last time I'm going to attempt to go through that feather again. Right, I'm just going to test them a little bit to see that I've got them firmly in place. That middle one could perhaps do with another stitch. I'm going to pull it up, take down a little bit, and get that further into place. It's really good for a clumsy person like me to have to learn to be really gentle with things, because I'm really not naturally a gentle. So, right, that's moving a little bit, so I'm going to push it back before I put the thread through. I don't want to go through it and then find that I've moved it out of place. It's all just constant looking and adjusting and looking and adjusting all the time into things. You're never going to get it perfect. If you're OCD, this perhaps isn't a good thing for you, because when it's handmade, it's never going to look like it's been machine made. Never. It's always going to be a little bit imperfect, and that's what I think is the lovely thing about it, and that's what other people will think is the lovely thing about it as well. So you have to learn to be patient and to accept that you're never going to get it 100% looking as if it's been made by a machine. And try and sew through it again. Just keep looking and checking, like I said. There we go, they're all facing the right way for me now. And test them again. Ah, that's much better. That's much, much firmer now for the feathers. What's really nice about this kind of skull cap as well is that because it's very loose thread, very loose kind of thick thread, your needle marks won't be as obvious. Do it all from underneath really. I'm going to take the duct tape off now really carefully. Hope it, oh, see, I can see a little bit that caught there. Just take it off as carefully as you can. See if anything needs fixing. See if you've caught any of the threads. You're going to catch the back of the feathers. Don't worry about that because nobody's going to see that bit. Right, so that's the feathers nicely sewn into place. So they're nicely sewn into place. You can trim them. You can decide to put another stitch into them if you want to. But they're quite firmly in these now. I'm going to put my butterfly on. I'm going to make a decision about where that's going to go. And now that I've put the peacock feathers in, I'm wondering whether to sew the jade ones around the edges or whether to go for a black rose like I did on the other one, because that bit there is looking a bit bare. I'm always prepared to change my mind about how to do it as well. Always prepared to think, well, how do I do it?